why don't we leave that to the end to give people a chance to look at them? They're not that extensive. And why don't we start with the discussion for tonight on the budget? So Andrew or Donna, did you?
Sure.
Something in
So
particular?
there's not much change from the last budget. The only biggest difference is really at the school level. So we've been in ongoing talks with them over the assessment, and just remember their first run at the budget was like close to 9% increase for our assessments. So right now, they've done some tweaking and countering, and right now their budget's at a proposed 5.2% increase. We really need to try to get them down to around a 3% to make the budget right where we need it to go. The good part, we're going to meet with them. I think we're scheduled to meet with them tomorrow. I'll have to double check.
Yeah, tomorrow.
But the state or the House actually just came out with their proposed budget, and of course they bumped up all the school related accounts. So I don't typically a lot of that money that's increased goes to the gateway cities and inside the 495 corridor, but hopefully some of that trickles down to the regional school districts. I did not see that some of that some of that it came out maybe like 15-20 minutes ago, but one of the highlights was that it did include additional money for regional transportation aid. So we know that the school district will be getting some of that. So hopefully we can press them a little bit harder, get them to that 3%. We know that 3% for us is equal to 4% for Dudley. So I don't think 4% is a manageable number for them. So I think that that's a good target right now, and hopefully it comes in under that. And assuming that we can get to that 3%, everything else will kind of fall in line.
So the number that's in the current master budget is where we want it to be.
That's where we want to get to with this.
All right, so that's not where we're at. Okay,
right.
I was surprised that we were already there.
Yeah, sorry. So I mean, the real difference is like if you go to the educational line, right now it's what the school is asking for is $16,884,400. Where we need to get them to at least get to is the $16,524,600. So that's that difference that we're really looking for to try to make up. If we can't get to that number, there's other considerations we'll have to make, but I don't think you're going to get either town to pass a budget that supports that position.
Okay.
We all done with that 3-year agreement?
Yes.
Is that caught up
Yeah.
now?
That's yes.
The year that we're in would have been the last year of it.
That's all right.
But just keep in mind, for us to even get to that 3% number that Andrew's talking about, we've had to defer some things that we wanted to have in the budget to October. For example, the OPEB funding.
Mhm.
To push that out. Also, this does not provide for a pay down of the police public safety complex, the 1.4 on the short term. No, it doesn't provide for any pay down of that. So our thought process was, if we can get to the 3% and then in the fall come back and appropriate money to do a pay down if we don't have a project to roll that into, depending on whether we have a project to roll into. I don't know if y'all remember me saying that if you don't have a construction project to roll that 1.4 into, it has to be paid within 5 years. And so this May will be the first year there's no pay down. Next year, if we don't appropriate anything in October, would be year 2. So then you'd have to pay that 1.4 back in 3 years time. So the clock keeps ticking unless you have something to roll that in for a construction project.
So based on what I heard at last night's selectmen's meeting, we won't officially have a project unless everything passes by next May. Is that, or is it even later than that?
By next May, yeah.
Next May, okay.
You know, we're gonna, I think I'm gonna have some more internal conversations to see whether or not that timeline can be more aggressive than next May. But that's, you know, not on the table right now. But it's gonna depend on to see, you know, what happens. But by at least next May, we'll know whether or not we have a project.
I had a question about where we stand with snow and ice. Do we have a deficit we're gonna have to take care of? We don't have anything in here, right?
No, so we're projecting that we will have a deficit, but we have money left in free cash to fund it in May so that we won't end up in a deficit. That
Okay.
would be the plan, right, Andrew? Just to
Yes.
not have a deficit.
Yes.
We're about 100,000 right now. And pray for no snow on Friday.
So I have a novice question. So I'm looking at the spreadsheet, the master budget for FinCom, the one that's dated 4/13 at the end
Yeah.
there. Yeah, okay, so I'm just trying to follow along, and you said roll down to the education section. The column that says revised department head percentage for education really isn't that, right? That's really numbers that we would prefer to see, is what you're saying? It's not really what the department head gave us?
So the first column, that's department head, was, I didn't have numbers from them, so I just plugged in what we had given them the year before. The
Okay.
revised budget column is what they requested when they came before you, which was the 8 to 9% increase.
Yeah.
And then the town administrator column is the column of what we're trying to get to for a 3% increase.
Okay, I'm not seeing the 8 to 9, like those columns both match on the spreadsheet. That's why I was confused.
Oh, maybe, did I have it?
I don't actually
I
see
didn't
an
think
8 to
I had that.
9% anywhere. I was just curious.
Oh, it's compared to, well, you would compare it to the 21 voted.
Oh, okay, 21 voted.
Yeah, because it was,
Am I looking at, are you guys all looking at the same one?
So
Yeah.
I think it's actually the revised department request, which show
Yeah.
5.6% increase.
5.5.
Oh, okay, so it's,
Yeah.
there's nowhere that's a 9 really, right? That's
Right,
not
yeah, because 9's off the table right now for them. Right
Okay.
now, they're at 5.6.
5.
Okay, so
I
we-
see it
we
now. Sorry
adjusted
about that.
for
I
it.
was looking for the wrong number. My
Yeah,
bad.
no, they had come in and their original presentation was closer to 9%, because I think we were
Okay.
just all floored. And then they came back and they've been revising right along.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I was just curious on the local receipts. Are we recognizing the marijuana tax revenue yet? Or we still have to wait another year?
no, I have that in there.
Okay,
So keep in mind that in FY '22, we're going to lose, well, not lose, but they're gonna change the methodology of how we get, account for Millennium Power. So
Mhm.
that will no longer be 700,000 is coming out of local receipts and will go up into taxation.
right.
So even though we've upped local receipts for other things, we have to take out the 700,000. We don't know the mechanism on how they're going to, how the DOR is gonna treat that 700,000 when it goes into the levy. I was kind of hoping they'd put it in first and then give us our 2.5% on that. I'm starting to think that they're gonna do the 2.5% first, then add the 700,000 in. So we wouldn't get the 2.5% on that until next to FY '23, but we do have, we did suffer some loss of revenue in meals tax and in ambulance. And we're hoping this next round of cares that they're talking about is going to allow us to recover some of that lost revenue. I don't know, if Andrew, if you want to mention
Yeah.
anything about that.
Yeah, so under the the Recovery Act, you know, there's like 5 pots of money there. We're still waiting for some formal guidance on it, but there has been guidance that's been brought to the, you know, the public safety side to show that, you know, the ambulance receipts would be an eligible expense if you can show that you had a lost or reduction in revenue because of COVID. So at least from that perspective, we know we can recover that, and then we're going to dig deeper into the meals tax receipts, because, you know, I think that's been an issue, you know, statewide for towns that do collect the meals tax because of, you know, the impact on restaurants.
Don, do you know regarding the marijuana revenue, what it's trending at? Like what we're actually seeing now that we're operating?
Well, I don't have, I have through December, so hold on, let me just open it and look.
Well, Don is looking for that. Andrew, on the list of items that we reviewed at the last meeting, are they pretty much all stayed in line with what your end result recommendation was in the last column? I started comparing some of them, but I don't, so were there anything that had to change?
I'm just looking real quick.
The
No
only
major changes. Yep.
We cut the public safety. That's all.
Yeah, the 350,000 with the intent of moving that as a capital item in October. Everything else is funded. Same way it was shown.
Okay.
So it was about 15,000 that we've got this fiscal year through December.
Which,
And that's the,
that in, is it state receipts or how does that get recorded?
It's part of local receipts.
Local receipt, thanks.
so all we are seeing is this is the additional sales tax on their sales, right? The 15,000.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's only Green Gold. That's the only one we,
That's only-
is that the
right.
only one we have open?
I don't think they started till like October or something like that. It wasn't even, I don't think it's even been a full fiscal year.
Okay, just curious. Does anyone else have any other questions on anything?
There is a request for me to repeat the amount, 15,000.
Thank you, Noreen. All right, so does anyone else from the FinCom have any other questions they'd like to ask? No?
I have another novice question.
No problem.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So now I'm looking at the revenue budget spreadsheet that's dated today. And I don't understand why the debt exclusions are listed on here. Those are actually outgoing payments, right? So they're not really revenue?
They are revenue because they're above and beyond the levy limit. So the top section shows the levy limit amounts that we can collect. Then the debt that's excluded is added to that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So that is for the purposes of showing the tax levy.
Right, just to show where your sources are coming from for revenue.
Okay,
And then down, as you go down the bottom, you'll see things that you don't appropriate for, like the state and county charges, that kind of stuff, overlay, which is abatements.
right.
And then how much, after you subtract that, that's what you have left for operations.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it,
Yeah.
Donna. Why does cable access go from 90 to 27 to 90? What's the fluctuation?
So,
So
yeah.
go ahead.
So
Bingo,
last
you're
year,
it.
yeah, I know. So last year we were in the middle of negotiating a cable access agreement with Charter because their license had actually lapsed about a year and a half ago. We finally, at the end of the 2020, wrapped up the new 10-year agreement, which basically brought our revenue stream back in. So now that we have that dedicated revenue stream there, now we can actually account for it on the books.
So I
Thanks.
actually have to have the money in the bank before I can let town meeting appropriate from it. So last year, I think it was last year, we were being promised we're gonna get the money. And so I figured, oh, we're gonna get it before the end of the fiscal year. I'll kind of let it slide because it was June. Never got the money. So when we had to go back in October and take money from taxation to cover it, and we ended up lowering, I think, because I couldn't fund the whole year without that money. So typically they run about 90,000 is what their expenses are. So, but you have to have the money in the bank, and we have the money in the bank.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right, well done, thanks.
Okay, so the next steps, as far as we're concerned, would be when we get to support or not support the motions, correct? That's our next thing for us.
Yeah, so let's see, the meeting, got about a month until the meeting, so. Ugh. And I want to print the books 2 weeks before, or get them together 2 weeks before, so
The 28th.
either the 28th or the 5th.
Just so that we'll have the warrant as well to go over. So you'll have the motions then. But if we need to make if there's any changes or recommended changes, we need to know that beforehand if you're on the budget. Otherwise, that takes a little bit more to change.
Yeah, Brett, I'm with you, Don. I think 28th, and then if we're really kind of still fighting it out, then we'll just have a meeting a week later.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. The 28th would be best. And then last night the warrant was approved, correct?
Yes.
The articles.
Yes.
Is that going to be distributed soon?
Yes. I was just finalizing. I want to make sure that the wording on one of the bylaw change to the conservation position was correct before blasting it out. There was just a few minor corrections to make. So I just hit the finalize button before walking out the door. I'll probably be sending those out tomorrow.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll schedule our next meeting for the 28th, 6:30 as usual. And primarily it'll be to go over the warrant and the motions, and then if any other budget issues come up, we'll address them then. Let's go back to if no one has anything else, let's go back to the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
If there's a second,
Second.
all right, Kristen with an I seconded. All right, so any discussion? All in favor, roll call. Carol? You're abstaining? Okay, Carol's abstaining. Kristen with an I,
Yes.
yes. Keith
Yes,
and Kristen with an E,
Approved.
yes. And the chair approves. The motion passes. All righty. Is there any other business that hasn't been listed that we need to bring up?
Oh, one thing. So on April 26th, we're going to be doing, we're playing for interviews for finance director in transition. I don't know if anybody on the board wants to take part in those interviews. It's Monday.
negative.
About what time, Andrew?
I think we can probably work around, if anybody's interested, we could probably work around whatever works for that person, because we haven't set times yet. So so if that's a, hey, I'm interested, let me know what time works for you.
I mean, I guess I'm saying if you want representation, let's talk and we can see if it works with schedules.
Okay, all right. You're a lucky volunteer then. So.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, so if that's it, thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
No, I think we
Thank you.
motioned to adjourn.
You too.